So now that we have covered the instructions and the background information, I am sure many of you are ready now to begin reading the transcript before writing your meeting minutes. But we need to take a step back and ask ourselves a very important question. Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to write meeting minutes? You must remember that this module is trying to prepare you for the corporate world. And in the corporate world, sooner or later, you'll find yourself writing meeting minutes, especially in your junior years, okay? So why do companies have to keep a record of meeting minutes? The first one is documentation. The government demands that each company must keep a record of its meetings for the last 5 years, and failure to comply with that requirement might lead to penalties. Remember, in the corporate world, you might work for a very large organization, and in such a case, it might be very difficult for one person to remember who was assigned what task. Therefore, meeting minutes are used to keep track of the responsibilities that were given to individuals and to help with accountability. Okay. So you can also use meeting minutes to resolve conflicts because it will give you a clear picture of what took place prior to whatever conflict, okay? Well-documented meeting minutes can assist decision making by providing a historical context and rationale for certain choices. This can be especially helpful when revisiting topics or making adjustments to previous decisions. Okay, now we have covered some of the reasons for or why meeting minutes are important. Let us now look at the key elements that we need to look for in a transcript before we can write our meeting minutes. Okay. So with the information that we have covered so far, we are ready to begin reading the transcript. So when you are reading your transcript, it is important to identify decisions made, actions taken. If there were follow-up actions, you need to identify them. If there were presentations, you need to keep a record of that so that you can summarize it. You need to be mindful of the discussion points. If there were motions proposed during the meeting or resolutions reached, you need to identify that. If voting took place, you need to identify that. If there were issues that were left unresolved, you need to identify that. If there were announcements, you need to capture that. And lastly, if there was like additional information, you need also to be mindful of that. Okay. So basically, when someone is reading your meeting minutes, they must clearly document any decisions reached during the meeting. It must also include the rationale behind decisions, if applicable, of course. In terms of action items, you must list the task or action items assigned to specific individuals. You must also include deadlines and responsibilities for each action, if possibly. In terms of your follow-up actions, any follow-up actions agreed upon for future meetings or discussions must be captured in your meeting minutes. In terms of presentations, you must make sure that you summarize key points from the presentations. In terms of motions and resolutions, you must record any formal motions or resolutions, including who proposed them and their outcome. And if voting takes place, you must capture or record the results of such a vote. In case there are unresolved issues, you must state whether those issues will be carried forward to the next meeting or not. Okay. In terms of announcements, make sure that you record the important updates. Okay. And in terms of additional information, that must also be included as part of your meeting minutes as well. Okay. So the trick to excelling in this assignment involves 3 things. 1, you must know what you are looking for from the transcript, which you already know by now. Secondly, you must use the correct language, and that is what we are going to discuss next, okay? And thirdly, you must use the correct structure. That means grouping your information in paragraphs, okay? So that's basically all that you need to do in order to excel. So let us look at the language that must be used when writing meeting minutes.